This is our lesson for Chapter 3, Lesson 1. Today's lesson is about absolute value. Absolute value is the distance between a number and 0 on the number line. You may remember this from 6th grade. Absolute value looks like 2 bars around a number. And since absolute value deals with the distance between a number and 0 on the number line, we need to remember that absolute value makes numbers positive. And that's because distance is always represented as a positive number. Think about it. Your gym teacher would never tell you to go run a negative mile because you can't. It's going to be a positive distance. Our first example here is the absolute value of 4. And those bars around the 4 are the absolute value bars. And what that means is that we plot 4 on the number line, and then we figure out how far 4 is away from 0. So we can count these. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. The number 4 is 4 spaces away from 0 on the number line. So the absolute value of 4 is 4. Likewise, we can find the absolute value of negative numbers. Same way, we take our negative number, negative 4, and we plot it on the number line. And we determine how far away negative 4 is from 0 on the number line. So again, we've got 1, 2, 3, and 4. Does not matter which direction we're moving in. We are 4 spaces from 0 when we're at negative 4. We are 4 spaces away from 0 when we're at positive 4. So for both numbers, the absolute value is positive 4. Again, that's because absolute value makes numbers positive. Distance is always positive. We can look at another one of these. This is one of your 3.1 example problems from your notes. We can look at the absolute value of negative 5. So, we can plot negative 5 on the number line, and we can determine how far away negative 5 is from 0. And I've done a little bit of work here to make this faster for us. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Negative 5 is 5 spaces away from 0 on the number line, so the absolute value of negative 5 is positive 5. When we talk about absolute value, we have to remember our order of operations, and you should be very familiar with PEMDAS, parentheses, exponents, multiplication and division, addition and subtraction. Remember, these two are on the same line because we do whatever comes first. So if we end up with multiplication first, we'll multiply first. If division's first, we'll divide first, but we go from left to right order. Same with addition and subtraction. So if we see absolute value in a problem, we need to know which step it falls under. And absolute value actually falls underneath parentheses. It is a grouping symbol. Parentheses, that step is more than just doing your normal parentheses. We can also do braces, we can do brackets, and we can also do our absolute value bars. So that is the step where we evaluate our absolute value. We're going to see a question like that next. So here's our question. It says the absolute value of 18 minus 15. Remember, we have to follow the order of operations, so we have to do our parentheses first, which means whatever is inside our grouping symbol has to be done before we can do anything else. So that means we have to first start off with evaluating 18 minus 15. So when we do that, we get the absolute value of 3. All we did was we subtracted those two numbers, and the 3 does stay in the absolute value bars. In our final step, we can go ahead and evaluate the absolute value of 3, which, remember, absolute value bars make numbers positive, so our final answer is positive 3. We can look at another example. This one's a little bit different. We have the absolute value of 24 minus the absolute value of negative 6. So again, we have to remember parentheses come first, which means we have to evaluate what's inside of our absolute value bars before we can do our subtraction. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do the inside of our absolute value bars. The absolute value of 24 is 24. The absolute value of -6 is +6, so I can rewrite my numbers without the absolute value bars, making sure that I've turned them both positive. And now I can continue and solve my problem. 24 minus 6 is 18. So this problem started off looking kind of weird, but we followed our absolute value and we did our parentheses step first and then finished it up to get 18. I have one longer problem like this. What I would like you to do is I would like you to try this problem by yourself on a piece of scratch paper. This is not in your notes. I will give you a hint. Parentheses come first, so absolute value bars are a form of a parenthesis or a grouping symbol. So let's begin right here. Go ahead, pause the video, get an answer, and when you have an answer, you can unpause and we'll see the solution. Okay, hopefully you have an answer. You pressed play again. And like I said before, we have to deal with our parentheses, our grouping symbols first, and absolute value is a grouping symbol. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make our -9 a +9. Now we still have another grouping symbol here, the absolute value of 18 minus 10. We have to take care of that next, but we have to solve what's inside first, just like parentheses. 18 minus 10 is 8. Don't forget, those bars still have to be there for this step. We have not finished our absolute value just yet. In this step, we will finish our absolute value. We'll make our absolute value of 8 a +8. And then we can finish with multiplication first. Get 72, and we can add to finish up our problem. 72 plus 8 is 80. So that was a little bit of a tougher problem, a little bit of a longer problem, but we just wanted you to see that you do evaluate your absolute value bars at the same time that you would do a parenthesis. Tonight's assignment, here's what you are going to do to be finished for your homework for tonight. You are going to finish the 3.1 example problems. These problems are on, I believe they're on the first page. You're going to do questions 1 through 6. Then you're going to write your own problem for number 7, and don't forget to complete your Google form for 3.1. This is going to use some of the questions that you did in your 3.1 review. Okay, any questions? Please make sure to note them in your Google form, and we'll go over this in class tomorrow.